I call that they don't like to see you winning. They wanna see you in a penitentiary. I need me a little baby who gon' listen. Girl, I don't wanna be the one you ignorant. My mama told me, boy, make a decision.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Clutch Talk podcast / YouTube / We Do It All. As always, I'm your host, John. Very happy to be here. Jenner, man, it's good to see you. How you doing?
Doing good. Appreciate you having me on again. Always fun, and looking forward to the debate this week. Got a special guest here.
We got a real special guest today, man. We got my guy Rob in the building, man. This is a throwback. This is a throwback, y'all. Like, and I'm gonna give you guys a little insight on my life, man. When I got my first job ever, it was at Sky High, and Rob was working there too. Me and Rob used to be having all the Warriors debates, and this is when the Warriors were like in the dynasty. This was like when they were two-peating and everything, man. So me and Rob, we would go back and forth all the time, and these classic Twitter debates. So Rob, we're really happy to have you on, man. Go ahead and introduce a little bit yourself and tell yourself about the fans.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, like you said, I'm a Warriors fan. Yeah, it was fun, those debates back in the day. It's a lot darker for us now these days.
Not as fun now
in the background. Yeah, it's been a little rough, watching Kelly Oubre, just breaking threes over and over again. But yeah, I'm from the Bay. I work with John. I actually go to Cal Berkeley right now, doing my senior year, about to graduate.
There you go. That's what's up. Good.
Nice.
Good for you, Rob. Good for you, man. So I don't know if you guys seen, but ESPN recently released that top 25 under 25. There's some questionable picks on there, but that's not what we're going to be talking about today, man. That got me thinking, like, who 25 or under would you want to build your team around? And I rallied up the troops. Told my brother, let's do this episode. Told Rob, let's do this episode. I said, I think it's gonna be a good episode, man. So that's exactly what we got today. We each are just gonna talk about who we have that's 25 or under that we would want to build our team around. And as always, man, as the guest, Rob, you gotta go first, man. So go ahead and start us off with, who do you got, Rob, 25 or under, to build your team around? Talk to me.
So, of course I have Luka. I mean, he's absolutely insane, dude. I mean, he's insane. I mean, his sophomore year last year, I feel like I was reading a new record each week, like on ESPN. Just every week it was like, Luka's the first person his age to do this since LeBron. But yeah, I mean, that sophomore season last year, I mean, that was amazing to watch. And then, when they played the Clippers in the playoffs, I mean, honestly, if Porzingis didn't get injured, like, I could have seen them like beating the Clippers, especially when you consider the way that the Clippers crumbled just in the next series. But yeah, I mean, Luka, he's absolutely incredible. This season he's averaging 28 points. I mean, nearly a triple double, 28, 8, and 8, and his efficiency is pretty good. And honestly, like, one of my only things that I'd wanted to see him improve was his 3-point shot, and it's actually doing better this season than last year. He's up about like 36% this season, I believe. But yeah, I mean, he's incredible. He's tall. He can get to the rim whatever he wants. He can shoot. He can pass. He can play make. He can pass out the trap. I mean, he can do pretty much anything, honestly. And just, I mean, when you think about his age, I mean, the things that he's accomplished so far. Yeah, exactly.
That's the crazy
We
part.
have no idea where he's going to go from here. I mean, the Mavericks had the highest rated offense in the history of the NBA last year, and they've taken like a couple steps back this year. But I mean, with a was he 20?
He was 20 last year.
20-year-old. Yeah, exactly. With a 20-year-old at the helm, the greatest offense in the history of the NBA. So, I mean, who knows where they're going to go from here? So, yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, he's just like the natural pick. I couldn't really think of anybody else that I'd want to go with.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, when you say Luka, some questions come to my mind as to, like, how do you feel about him on the defensive end? Because I know that's a area where he lacks, right? And I know that when I get to my player don't lack in that area. So I want to know, Rob, like, how do you feel about him? Given, like, yeah, he's tremendous on the offensive end and brings you constant triple doubles, but on the defensive end, he gives up a lot. So does that not bother you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he's not good at defense at all. You just blow by him if you want. But honestly, I mean, it's the modern NBA. I mean, like defense is being played like the least in like the history of the sport. Like the
Yeah.
top defensive rating teams like this year would be like would barely be cracking like top three just like a couple of seasons ago. So honestly, with the way that the game is shifting towards offense, I don't think that him being a defensive liability is that big a deal. Now, with
Mhm.
that being said, I would very much like him to get better on defense because I mean he has the measurements for it. He's 6'7", he's tall, He could
Yeah.
do it. He's just gotta try, put the effort in. And maybe if he got into like a little bit better conditioning, because I know he's like, he could be a little bit on the thicker side, and that way he wouldn't have to like conserve energy for offense. But yeah, for me, just given his offensive output, the defense isn't that much of a concern for me. Like the offense is so good that I mean he's a defensive liability. But if you can construct a good enough team around him and then just let him use his height, I think that you could be fine.
So he's kind of like what the Nets is as a team. Like they're gonna give up everything on the defensive end, but they're gonna beat you on the offensive end.
Yeah, I mean the Nets are just the epitome of the modern NBA. I mean every player they add is just ratcheting up the offense.
Definitely.
You look at last year though, the team, the Lakers, they had a pretty good defensive unit, and that's what kind of carried them to the championship. So I agree with you that the NBA is moving and is currently a very offense heavy league, but I think that just having a defensive team isn't necessarily a bad thing. Being a different team last year, like the Lakers, actually got them to a title. So I think that it's definitely very important to be sure to have at least something on defense, right? And when we get to my player doesn't lag on defense either. So we'll see. We'll see how what kind of arguments I can make for him.
Yeah, I mean defense is definitely important. I mean honestly, that's why I'm interested if it does become Lakers and Nets in the finals. I mean, we're going to see, is it defense or offense that wins championships? 'Cause,
Exactly.
that's where it's going.
Rob, so you mentioned that Luka will thrive when you put players like around him that will help him. So who do you think that it should be around Luka, right? Like if you ask me who do you put around LeBron, I'm just gonna say strictly shooters. You just put shooters around LeBron. So who do you like? What players around Luka do you think that make him excel at his greatest level?
I mean, honestly, I would probably go a similar route because Luka, who he reminds me of a lot, is like a James Harden, the way that Harden plays. And when,
Defense.
Harden's exactly. Hey, he's doing a little better this year.
Yeah, no, he is.
But yeah, Harden, when he was in Houston, it was basically just him and then just a court full of shooters, and it worked pretty well. And Luka, he plays with a pretty high usage rate. Like the offense just flows through him pretty much entirely. So yeah, I mean, if you just surround him with shooters and let him, drive, kick out, and just decide what he wants to do, I think that would probably be the best system to thrive. So I think if you could also construct a roster that could maximize, him not having to necessarily be the biggest defensive liability that he can be, whereas you get some good like 3-and-D guys who you have shooting, you have scoring, but you also have good defense, and they can switch around need be. I think that would probably be the best way to maximize him.
Okay, yeah, I think honestly with players like LeBron and like Luka, because Luka really is like the kind of really the closest thing that we've seen to LeBron. Maybe not as far as around hype. Maybe that would be a different player. But
yeah,
as far as like talent, as far as like do it all, and like how you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, like last year we seen a stat every week that this Luka's the first player to do this since LeBron. So my question to you, Rob, is like, is he the next LeBron? Like, is he the next LeBron to you, or what do you think, Rob? Or do you think he's gonna be better than LeBron? How do you feel about Luka? Is like that or what?
I mean, he's a little less athletic for sure. But I mean, I think with Luka, it's the sky's the limit. He's so young; he could go anywhere. I do think, some people will have a tendency to overrate him a little bit, like where he is right now. I think, like some of us are a little too quick to be like ready for what he's going to become. That we're jumping the gun on like overrating him. But yeah, I mean, he he could reach that caliber of player if he really locks in. Because at his age and what he's doing, I mean, I can't like where does he even go when he's like by the time he's 28 and fully in his prime? Like I can't imagine how much he's going to like improve his game by then.
Right.
Man.
I mean, dude, he becomes like a high volume 40% 3-point shooter on top of all of this, or some other stuff like that, or just like a lockdown defender. I mean, we have no idea where his game could go from here.
And you can say the same thing too about LeBron when he was young, that he had no shot. And actually a big knock on him was like, man, you know, when he's in his 30s, that athleticism is not going to be there anymore. And he's just not going to be as efficient. And while that athleticism is still there in a way that like he has been like superior athleticism to what we predicted, it's definitely taken a hit from, you know, his Miami days. But he was able to add the shooting to his arsenal and just become, you know, more of a threat. He's improved this passing. I mean, his court vision has always been great, but now he's been able to, I guess, implement those passes better. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how Luka's going to develop his game and just improve as a player. But I think he's got the potential to get up there, though. Like, as you know, one of the greats. At least he's probably going to be, you know, fighting with Dirk. I think Dirk's the best European player of all time, maybe even the best international player of all time. So, you know, he could be giving Dirk a run for his money. But Giannis could too, though, because he's international too. So that
he's young as well. We kind of forget how young Giannis is.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like there's a good wave of international players here.
So
Embiid,
yeah,
man. And yeah, no, there's a good wave of
yeah. You got Jokic too. There's actually
Jokic,
a lot of international players.
Ayton. I mean, Ayton is not as good as those, but like he's a solid player. He's international too. Like there's quite a bit.
The NBA is worldwide now, man. The NBA is really worldwide, which is crazy. But like how you mentioned, Junior, you talked about Luka's game and aging. So that's my question to both of you guys is do you think Luka's game is one that will age very well? Because, you know, every single time I talk about Luka or I bring up Luka, I always bring up my brother told me, man, he went to a Mavericks versus Clippers game a long time ago, and he told me that Luka is like not fast. Like he's not fast at all. All he does is he just has insane control of pace and uses his angles very well, right? But then my question to you is like when he's 30, when he's 31, is he going to be able to do that still? Is he going to be able to control the tempo, control the pace, and work these angles as well? How do you guys feel about that? You guys could talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that's exactly why his game's going to age well, because he's not super reliant on athleticism. Because, I mean, that's like the first thing to go for any player that doesn't age well. Like, look at Russ. I mean, he's super reliant on it, and he's had, you know, some pretty rough years, especially in the postseason because of that. So, yeah, honestly, I think his game's going to age very well. I would like to see him get in like a little better condition because that's probably why. I mean, he's kind of slow getting to the rim, but he doesn't need to be fast the way he plays. Yeah. But just because, I mean, the better condition you're in, the better you're gonna age. Like it's pretty just simple science. But honestly, I don't see why his game wouldn't age well. It's not reliant on him being like fast or being able to jump high. So there's no reason to think when he's in his 30s that anything is really going to change as far as that goes.
Yeah, I agree. How do you feel about that, Junior?
No, I agree with Robert 100%. It's just he's not relying on speed. He's relying on angles, which is not really going to age that much. And then, like, I mean, he's gonna when he's old in basketball, you know, he's gonna be like 32, 33. Not like he's gonna be 60, but he'll still be able to change direction quickly. And a lot of his game is brain too, so that's gonna help. That's just not gonna age that much. If anything, he'll become more experienced and just know how to work these angles better. So we see that a lot with Talen Horton-Tucker too. Like he's not very fast, but he knows how to move. You know, he knows how to use his body.
THT.
We're throwing the THT Luka comparison real quick.
Hey Rob, if you don't know,
that's how I know I'm on a Lakers podcast right now. THT and Luka.
Hey Rob, if you don't know, man, my brother is a huge THT fan. He's been on him since like Iowa. He's been on him since the jump. Yeah, Junior's been on.
He must have been so excited when he signed with the Lakers.
Yeah, no, it was just I thought he was a good prospect. So it was actually funny when the Lakers traded up to get him. I actually wanted them to take Bol Bol, but I'm really glad he didn't. I was like, oh, why not take him? He's huge. And I actually was not going for Taylor Horton-Tucker, but I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad it worked out because
Yeah, dude, he's nice.
Bowles out of a rotation now. And, he's probably gonna get some playoff minutes. So
Yeah, he
did last
started.
year.
He just started last game.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just started. I mean, I granted, Kuzma's hurt,
Yeah,
LeBron's hurt, AD's
the
hurt,
entire roster.
our entire team's hurt, but he still started. But okay, Rob. So we feel you. What you saying is your player is Luka. Okay, we got you. So Jenner,
yeah, I mean, he's amazing.
I agree with you. But me and Jenner are about to tear your argument apart, man. Jenner, talk to me. Who do you got? 25 and under.
All right. So I would have rolled with Luka, but I didn't want it to be an echo chamber, so I had to go with my second pick. So, as the great Max Kellerman has once said, fate of the universe on the line. The Martians have the death of that earth. You better hit it. I want Iguodala. No, I'm kidding. So, I got a player who's actually 19 years old, and that's also a running joke. No, it's also.
I was about to say. You didn't go who I thought you were gonna go with.
No. He's a great player. It's a running joke because they always say he's been 19 for like 5 seasons already.
Okay.
So you might already know who it is, but I'm gonna go with the one that got away from the Lakers, and that's Mr. Jason Tatum. And it's fitting because he just dropped 53 points. So I think like I was saying, he got away from the Lakers, and it was just super frustrating to watch that. You look at the Lakers front office now, you might think it's a good front office, but it was not the case when Magic was at the helm. Lakers.
I remember that.
Horrible GM. So actually leading up to that draft, the 2017 draft, I actually thought Tatum was the best player available. And as soon as Philadelphia didn't take him, it was like a bittersweet feeling because I knew we had the opportunity to take him and we should take him, but we weren't going to because the Lakers had just moved D'Lo and they were going to bring in a guard. But side note, if you were going to bring in a guard, it shouldn't have been Lonzo Ball. It should have been De'Aaron Fox, but that's a whole nother story. So I won't even go down that rabbit hole right now.
Hey, stop letting the mic bleed, Jenner. Hey, Rob, on this podcast, often, what I'm saying, we both Lakers fans, so sometimes the purple and gold bleeds through the mic. You know what I'm saying, Rob?
Yeah, dude, I mean, I remember John telling me about Lonzo back in 2017. So,
I used to think Lonzo was him.
I remember those days.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. No. So, but anyway, back to Mr. Tatum, right? So I liked him. I like him a lot. Like, let's get into his intangibles. First of all, 6'8", 210, quick, agile, and he's been to 3 conference finals, right?
Man.
That's experience. That's second to none. Even though he's lost in all of them, that's experience that you build up. Imagine I don't know how old he is. I think he's 22, 23?
He's 23.
23. So he's 23. And he's been to 3 conference finals already. Like how much experience that's built. That's just intangible stuff, right? So and out of all the players that I think you can make an argument for being on this under 25 list, he's definitely the most experienced in the playoffs. Like I don't even think it's close. So now let's look at the numbers. 26 points this season, 4 assists, 7 rebounds, 38% from the field, and 38% from 3 and 46% from the field. And his numbers improve every year. He just consistently keeps getting better, right? So he went on rebounds. He went 5 rebounds, 6 rebounds, 7 and 7. I'm rounding up, obviously. Assists went 2, 2, 3, 4. Points went 14, 16, 23, 26. So he just keeps getting better. So we haven't even seen prime Jason Tatum yet, right? Like there's still more to go, and he's already done so much. But even going beyond stats, like he's a solid defender because he's big and he's mobile. And he's a strong dude. So that helps a lot. I'm not saying he's going to be in the paint banging with Joel Embiid, but he can keep up with most forwards. And I think that's gonna help him a lot. And like I always say on the pod, best type of ability is availability.
Yes, sir.
And he's played 47 games out of the 53 possible at the time of writing, right? He can up and give you 50 almost any night, and that's what he did the other day, right? Like on last week, he put up a 53 points. He's a leader to that Boston team. He was given pretty much like using a soccer analogy, the captain's armband while young, and he's done a great job, leading that team. He led them through some rocky times with Kyrie being there, and he says Kyrie's going to be there for a long time, and then he leaves at the end of the season, and the team's been through some trials and tribulations, and Jason Tatum's been able to be, the consistent just leader for that group. And he's just a really, really good player. I think when you make a similar argument for other players that, like Luka or whoever you're going to say, John, it's they're all great players, but no one's touching Tatum's experience. I don't even think it's particularly even close. And another thing that I think has gotten a leg up on his competition is we've seen him adapt and improve, right? So like his numbers, like I said, his numbers have been consistently improving, but he's been adapting too, right? Like he didn't come into this league a great shooter, not horrible, but he wasn't a good shooter. And look, he was shooting in his rookie season 47.5% on 10.4 shots a game. Now he's almost double that amount of shots at 20.5 shots a game, and he's still shooting 46%. So he's been able to actually keep that. And while doubling the amount of shots, you would think that he would probably fall to probably the low 40s, but no, he's been able to just kind of consistently be able to improve, and that helps a lot. So it's been a really, really impressive, I guess, run so far for Jason Tatum. So he's got the numbers, the intangibles, the drive, the durability, the adaptability, the experience, and the availability. Why not build a team around him? That's why I got to go with Mr. JT.
Okay. I like that. So the same way, I asked Rob some questions about your player. I want to ask some questions about JT to you. So do you really feel that JT can be a leader though? Because I feel that oftentimes when I watch Boston Celtics games, when he starts hitting, and he starts dancing, hitting his little sidestep threes, step backs, whatever it is, he often, like Trae Young, gets this insane tunnel vision, and takes some very bad shots. And again, he's 23. With time, he'll understand to tame that tunnel vision. But to you, does that not scare you a little bit, or say like, okay, well, because if you're taking these bad shots, you're taking away from a possible good shot, right? And I always use this analogy when I talk about this. Danny Green last year on the Lakers, right? Rob is tired of the Lakers. Rob is tired. Rob is like, stop talking about the Lakers. Danny Green last year on the Lakers.
I remember the Danny Green slander. I remember hearing all of this. Yeah, hey, I watched it. It was pretty disgusting to watch.
It was disgusting. But look, so Danny Green, right? I've heard some people give arguments, said that he was very useful for that Lakers championship run, and I would highly disagree. And the reason why is this same analogy that I'm going to use with Jason Tatum is that if you're not hitting, right, like if you're Danny Green and you're not hitting your shots, the only way for you to start hitting your shots is you got to keep shooting, because it's there. You just got to find it. But you gonna keep shooting and keep missing, and you taking away from other people's shots, right? And with a great player like Jaylen Brown on the team, if Jason Tatum is not hitting and he keeps with his tunnel vision, I got to keep shooting. Once I see one go in, it's gonna go in, and he has that. And he's taking away shots from Jaylen Brown. He's taking away shots from Kemba Walker. He's taking away shots from other great players, man. So my question to you is, does that tunnel vision concern you? If not, talk to me about that.
It does in a sense, but I don't think it's so much his leadership as more of his maturity. I think as he matures, he's going to be able to improve on those areas of weaknesses, right? So he is experienced, but notice I didn't say he's a fully polished player yet, and it's exactly for those types of shortcomings. Is the fact that he does have that tunnel vision, and sometimes he does kind of go. He gets on. He tries to kind of shoot himself out of a slump, and sometimes he shoots his team out of the game. But I don't think that's so much. I guess you could make an argument that it borders on leadership, but I think it's more of a maturity thing and realizing kind of what's best and what's not, how to kind of adapt to the game. So it's funny because I did mention his adaptability, but I meant his adaptability more as a big picture thing rather than an in-game thing, right? So I don't want to give a Frank Vogel analogy because then I'm going more into Lakers again. But it's just what I know, man. So I got to talk about what I know. But okay, since I've already briefed it, I'll say I think Frank Vogel is a great coach when it comes to adapting things over series, not inside of a game. Inside of a game, he doesn't adapt, and it pisses me off. But I digress. Back to Tatum, same thing. Doesn't really adapt in the middle of the game, but over the course of a season, over even the course of a month, I'll say that he makes noticeable adaptations to his game. So maturity is a thing that's it's gonna help him polish a little more and be able to not make these ill-advised decisions before taking shots. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Okay, and his defensive end. How do you feel about that? Because I
like him as a defender.
I said you said that he was a good defender. I don't think he's a great defender on the perimeter. When
you don't think he's a great defender?
I don't think he's a great defender. I think that guarding other guards, right? Like when he guards, like I was just watching to get ready for this pod. I was watching the Celtics versus Pelicans game, and he was guarding Josh Hart. Right, like that. Mm-hmm. That's not much of a challenge. But when you put Kyrie on him, when you put Dennis Schroeder on him, when you put these top guards on him, he's getting burnt like and 8 times out of 10. So does that not worry you, the perimeter defense?
So I think his perimeter defense could use some work, but I think his interior defense kind of makes up for that. Again, not against centers, and he's not going to be able to go ahead and body Joel Embiid, but it's the same thing. You see smaller players putting bigger players on skates more often than not, right? Because they do have that quickness advantage. But I think his defense is good enough to the point where he's not a liability on defense. I would go ahead. I still feel that he's a good defender. I'm not saying he's a great defender. I'm not saying he's running for Defensive Player of the Year, but I think he's a good defender. I mean, and his defensive rating this season is 112. He's got a 112 defensive rating this season. Anything below 100 is great. Now there's really, I think like Dinwiddie leads the league, but he's only played I think a handful of games. LeBron is the only player that I'm sorry?
I said, yeah, Dinwiddie's not playing. He tore his ACL.
Yeah. So LeBron leads the league in defensive rating. I think he's at 103. So that gives you a comparison. He's only really 9 points behind LeBron. I mean, I know if you look at it, there's 10 million players between them because it's 103.1, 103.2 until you get to 112. But it's 111.7 to be exact. But I think he's a good enough defender that I wouldn't be, shaken if it came to the point where, he's going to get one-on-one by somebody. I think that the game's on the line. He'll be able to actually, step back. I think he'll be able to recognize that he's not the best perimeter defender and try to invite them in the post a little bit more. Because he's taller than a lot of these players too. He's 6'8". 6'8", you're getting from small forward to maybe a shorter power forward type of size, So I think that that helps him a lot. And I personally like him as a defender. He's not Ben Simmons, but I like him as a defender.
Okay. And do you feel comfortable with him being your guard, bringing the ball down court type guard, or you want him to be more of an off ball guard?
Yeah, I think he's more of an off ball guard. I again wouldn't mind, but I'm not seeing Tatum for his handles, right? I'm seeing his ability to make a good shot selection. I'm seeing his ability to drive to the hoop and use his size. I'm seeing his ability to be able to kind of maybe a step back shot or be able to, kind of find a corner three, but not necessarily, dribble himself into a great position or draw defenders or anything of the sort. So, but I like him, I like him. I don't mind him taking the ball up court, but I prefer that, we have another ball handler. Oh my goodness. I'm not a Celtics. I prefer that.
Bleeding green.
Don't bleed green to the mic.
Yeah, I prefer that he takes, that I think it'd be better for the Celtics if he's, kind of an off-ball guard / forward. I think playing the three suits him really, really well. I think that's kind of it's going to be his go-to position.
And
what do you
go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, cool. What do you think? How would you want to fill out the Celtics roster around him and Jaylen Brown? Because it's they've kind of had a tough time just with their roster construction with the way the Kyrie era went, and Gordon Hayward's injury history, and then Al Horford and everything. So how would you want to construct the Celtics roster around him and Brown? Because I do wonder about he's not really much of a playmaker. So what kind of point guard you would want around him and the team that you'd want to bring out his talents.
Yeah, so I think a playmaking point guard would be so helpful to a team like that. If I said we again, Celtics could have got.
Hey, that's two. Don't let it happen three.
Almost strike two already. If the Celtics could have gotten Charlotte Kemba, I think that would have solved their problems. I think if they get a playmaker an old, just vintage Kemba Walker type of player, that would really, really help him because that's a playmaker who could also find his own shot. Obviously I can say, put Stephen Curry in there, put Damian Lillard, put elite point guards. But realistically, like if you look at, I'm gonna say it, but if you look at somebody who could create their shot, somebody a point guard who could create opportunities, say. I don't think Lonzo Ball would be a bad fit on that team. I know it sounds crazy, but I don't think he'd be a bad fit on the team, and he's a good defender. And then as far as a big around him, I mean, obviously, like I said, put Joel Embiid in there, put Nikola Jokic. But if I'm going to say like what type of big, a dominant big, so a Dwight Howard actually would fit in really, really well with them. Andre Drummond actually would have fit great, and they were actually pursuing Andre Drummond. I think Andre Drummond would have fit great on that team as well. Just a dominant big who could really work the post. Would be a really, really good addition to that team. And Enes Kanter would have been great for them, was pretty good for them, and would have been a great player to keep around. That type of like a big who just pretty much be able to do the dirty work in the post, kind of like what Dwight was doing last year, do the dirty work in the post. So he could he kind of leave out that room and be able to let, players like Tatum and Brown take over. And I think even a player like, I know it's going to sound crazy because he's not playing that well, but think of like a Ricky Rubio, like just a player who's be able to be quick enough to be able to kind of, be able to generate plays, draw plays, maybe draw defenders. I mean, as much as defenders want to pay attention to Ricky Rubio, but be able to actually generate some good passes and find some good passing lanes. Chris Paul fits anywhere, but that's like another great fit for them as well. So just playmaking point guards who can create for others, but don't necessarily have to create for themselves to have a good game. And that's why I said Lonzo. Like Lonzo's the type of player that he could have 0 points in a game, and I could still think he might have had a good game. If you look at how he played his assists, how he played on defense. So I think those type of like playmaking point guards would be the best way to kind of shape things around those two players, because they could get their own. You don't need another player taking up shots,
Definitely. I agree. You put those type of players around Jason Tatum. That's when I think that he will be able to blossom to his all. So let's
or send him to play at Staples. Okay,
here we go.
No, I'm kidding. It's also too. That's another running joke. Every single podcast, I send some player to the Lakers. Every single one.
That's how it's going to be going pretty soon. The way the league's going.
It's like those Photoshops. It's just Lakers and Heat players.
Everybody wants to go play for Rob over there in LA.
JT was a big Kobe fan. I'm just saying.
That's true.
No, that's respect though. I think everybody likes Kobe. So now at least. So anyway. Okay. So
all right, man. So let's get to my player, man. So I had to sit here and listen to all this blasphemy from both of you, man, talking about Tatum, talking about Luka. But I'm gonna tell you who the real player, man, who's 25 or under, that I want to build my team around. Okay, and we talking about the future here, man. So I'm gonna go with the young. I'm gonna go with the youngest cat of them all, man. I gotta
yes,
go.
Sir, Mr. THT in the house.
No, not THT this time. Not THT this time, man. But I gotta go with the bully ball himself, man. Zion Williamson, man. I don't think as many players his age that can move the way he moves and is a size that and is his size. But you know what? Let's jump into it, man. Zion is 20. He's 20, dog. Luka is 22. Tatum is 23. So Zion is about like 3 years younger than both of them. At 20 years old, currently he's averaging 26 points per game, 7 rebounds, 2 offensive rebounds per game, 3 assists, 1 steal, 70% from the free throw line, getting to the free throw line 8 times per game, shooting 36% from the 3, and a ridiculous 61% from the field, man. Man, that right there is impressive. But let's get to talk about what makes Zion so great and why is he the best player to build the team around, in my opinion. So I have 7 points that I want to get through with you guys, and I got a couple of sub points. Feel free to stop me whenever, rebuttal. Talk like
we got the itinerary ready.
Got the idea. Yeah, feel free to let me know anything, man. So my first point is that Zion is a great finisher at the rim, a better finisher at the rim than both JT and Luka. And right now, Zion has a better field goal percentage than Giannis, Jokic, Embiid, and LeBron. The only player in the entire NBA that has a better field goal percentage right now than Giannis is Rudy Gobert at 66%. Right? But mind you, Rudy Gobert is all he does is play inside. Giannis, his game is a lot more stretched out than Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert doesn't come down court and hit a little in and out, right? Zion got that. My second point is,
how many shots is he hitting though?
How many shots is Zion hitting?
Shots is he hitting? Like, I'm not seeing Zion on the pull up.
Well, he's shooting one three per game, but Zion, he's got that little mid range. He's got that little mid. While I agree with you, while I agree with you that most of his game is take it to the hoop, but it's a lot less. It's a lot less take it to the hoop than Rudy Gobert's is. Would you agree?
I would, but I think that a lot of the players that you listed there, that he has a better field goal percentage of, they're taking more shots. So I'm thinking his field goal percentage might be the fact that he takes a lot of shots really, really close to the rim.
You think Giannis is taking less shots in the rim than Zion Williamson?
I think Zion. I don't know how the numbers in front of me, but I'm thinking Zion.
Come on, man. Giannis, that's all he does. That's all he does. I'll talk.
That's all Zion.
That's all Giannis does. Everybody knows you just build a wall on Giannis, and what happens?
Yeah,
he shuts down.
Well, that's what I'm interested to see with Zion is how are teams going to scheme for him in the playoffs? Because I mean, he is I don't know. I wouldn't call him a one-dimensional player necessarily, but he is. I wonder if you were able to eliminate his. I wouldn't call him that, but I'm saying if you were able to eliminate his inside game, I don't know, like if you could do that, but if you did, I mean, I'm not sure. If you could, what else he has to draw from.
Clock's running down, and Zion's got the ball. I'm building a wall. And if he wants to take that mid range, I'm letting him take that.
And you're gonna build the wall, and that's the thing. Zion is so smart; he's able to make the right passes. Zion, and that's something, and that's one of my future points that I'm gonna get to is his IQ. His IQ is insanely high. He understands that every time he blows by the defender, the defense is going to collapse. They're whether they build a wall when he's coming down court or whether he blows past the defender and the defense collapse, he always knows where to make the right pass, and he also doesn't force passes, which is part of his insanely high IQ. But so my second point that I wanted to talk to you guys about was his combination of strength and speed at that size is literally unguardable. It's unguardable. You watch a Pelicans game and he's either too big or too fast for anyone on the court, no matter who it is. He's 6'7", 284, man. Every single game, Zion gets probably 10 to 15 left-handed layups. Mind you, Zion is left-handed. And like they're not letting him get to the hoop. Like he's getting there. Because he's bullying his way to the hoop. He's bodying everybody. He's getting everybody out the way. I heard this quote from JJ Redick. JJ Redick said every NBA player wishes that they could get 10 to 15 shots, 10 to 15 layups with their dominant hand. He gets 10 to 15 layups with his left hand. And I'm sure that the defensive scouting report tell him, don't let him go left. Don't let him go left. And he still gets there, which represents and shows just how dominant he is on the court, and can nobody move him, right? 97%. I'm gonna give this stat because this helps on argument, but it's low-key helps Junior's argument he just had on me about the in the paint. But I gotta give this stat, man, because this just shows his down. Don't think about it in Junior's perspective. Think about it in this perspective. Think about it in the perspective of he's getting there. 97% of Zion Williams shots comes in the paint. 97%. Right, but again, but hey,
I have a shot profile of him right here, and yeah, it reflects that. Is only in the paint. All right.
No, I will give you that, right? But don't look at it in the sense of, okay, that's why his field goal percentage is high. No, look at it in the sense of like he's getting there. I'm sure that the other team isn't just like, oh yeah, let him get in the paint. No, everybody's trying to shut him down, and he's still getting there.
With you. Like that's a good point. Like I think the fact that he gets to the paint is good, and that's the positive. I think that just invalidates the argument that his percentage is so like look how good he is. His percentage is so high. I think it's because he's in the paint so much. So I
but
think
you still got to finish,
huh?
You still got to finish though,
right? And when you
gotta
that
get
big, you know what I mean? Like,
so just because he's big, he gets a pass.
What are Embiid's numbers?
And that's one thing. Zion right now leads the league in points in the paint. He only leads the league right now because Embiid was just out for the past couple of weeks. And when they were both playing, Embiid led the league in points in the paint. But now Zion took that number one spot, right? But another point I wanted to talk to you guys about was the bully ball, right? And we can in general, if you pull up any numbers or YouTube, Rob, let me know. But his bully ball right now, Zion leads the entire league in and ones. Talking about Junior's point, right? You're right. It's easier to make it if you're right there at the rim than if you're 28 feet out. I agree, but you still gotta finish. He's still getting the toughest defenders coming at him nightly, banging, and he still leads the league right now in and ones. Again, a credit to his dominance, a credit to the way he gets to the rim. And can't nobody stop him. He leads, like I just mentioned, he leads the league in points in the paint with 19.7 points in the paint, y'all. Like, think about that for real. And let me read you this crazy stat. The last person to average 19 points in the paint, you know who it was?
Shaq.
Yeah.
Shaq.
One of the most dominant players of all time. And he's doing this again. He can't even go to the liquor store and get a Hennessy bottle. He can't even do that. You got to think about that. He's doing all this. He's putting Shaq-like record numbers at 20 years old, right? And that right there is another, like representation of his dominance, how great he is. Last year he only played 24 games. I get it. Those numbers are low-key inflated. He had 23 points. He averaged 23 points per game last season. Again, only on 24 games, but he did that off pure strength and athleticism. Like last year, it was Zion's rookie year. He and it was the whole COVID year. He didn't have much time to get acclimated in NBA. And okay, this is how you operate in the NBA offense. This is how you do that. Nah, they probably just told him out there and bully, and that's what he did. And he put 23 points per game just strictly off bully ball. And now you add skill to that. Now you add a NBA shooting coach working with him, an NBA defensive coach working with him, right? And you add just a whole nother skill set. Like how I mentioned earlier about the high IQ. Zion is an extremely smart player. Makes the right passes when the defense collapses, takes advantage of mismatches. Man, and he draws about every single time he's on the court is a mismatch. Like I think the only player in the NBA that I would feel comfortable guarding him, the only two players healthy would be Joel Embiid and Anthony Davis guarding Giannis.
You feel comfortable with Joel Embiid guarding?
I mean, not guarding Zion. Yes, I would definitely.
Really?
Definitely. Would you not?
Well, it was a little slow. Like, I don't know.
And
I guess Zion isn't so fast either. But how would you feel with Giannis guarding him? Giannis is a pretty good defender.
I would, yeah. You're right. Yeah, I gotta give that to Giannis because Giannis got the lane.
Rudy Gobert?
No, he's getting burnt, and he's getting burnt. Zion, because that's the problem. Zion can take you in the perimeter. He's not a one-dimensional, and that's the reason why. Rob, you don't think he could take you to the perimeter like that?
No, I mean I think he can,
like
but
that.
if I was gonna guard Zion, I would just drop back. I mean, you could probably sag off him a little bit. He doesn't. Because he's got a good percentage, but he doesn't shoot. Do it a lot. I would like to see him shoot more. That way you could, the defense for sure has to, play you honestly. which, I mean, obviously it's not a problem because he basically gets to the rim whenever he wants. It's insane to watch. I mean, he's got biceps the size of my head. I mean, he's absolutely huge, dude. Like, he's like, I mean, he's like a kid too. I can't imagine. Like, usually it's like, wait till this guy fills out. It's gonna be crazy. I can't imagine he could put on any more size,
any more weight.
Yeah, like I don't think it's possible, but I mean, we'll see in a few years. But
So-
I mean,
and that right there is exactly one of my points. Is the man is a nightmare, a matchup off the pick and roll. And I've said this tons of times on this podcast. Like the NBA nowadays isn't really. They don't really run plays like that. They like the Spurs or some other teams, they run plays, but really every single offense is predicated off a high pick and roll and then run, and then whatever mismatch you have, run the mismatch. Like that's really how almost every NBA offense is predicated off of. And Zion will, out of the 5 players that are on the court on the other team, he most likely the little guys, he's too big for the little guy, and he's too fast for the big guy. Right. So unless, again, you throw like how Junior mentioned a Giannis, or how I mentioned an AD, a Joel, and even I would even feel comfortable with LeBron, but even LeBron's a little old. I wouldn't want LeBron taking all the shots like from Zion, because Zion, he puts it
he's
on
gonna
you.
break a rib trying to defend Zion, dude.
That's what I'm saying.
Bring out that age in LeBron.
Dislocate a hip.
He puts it on you, and that is another point that I have, is he puts it on you, and then. And he's quick. I know you guys see that little spin move he has in the post. And when he gets to that spin move is 95% of the times where he's coming with the spin move from right to left, and he's going to finish with his left hand. And I just think that right there is just it's an amazing shot that most NBA players don't get, not because they don't want to get it, because they can't get it, because the defense absolutely blocks it off. Zion doesn't let him block it off. So talk to me, man. Like, how do you guys feel? Like, you guys think that I'm tripping, or feel me? Like, talk to me.
I want to know one thing, because you said only AD, Giannis, and Embiid could hang with him. How you feeling with Miles Turner on him? Feel Miles Turner on him?
He's getting burnt in the perimeter.
You think? Well, look.
Be honest with me. Be honest.
You thinking is Zion or Stephen Curry? Because he's not that fast.
Be honest with me. Be honest with me, both of you. How many Pelicans games have you guys watched?
Dude, I've watched. I tried to in the beginning because
you gotta watch.
I like Brandon Ingram, but
he's nice. I love Bi.
Yeah, it's true.
Shout out Lakers. but okay. So. Like, man, like he really is. Like, I promise y'all. Like, I try to watch every single NBA game, right? And I've seen tons of Pelicans games this season. And Zion, he's a lot quicker than he seems. And while I get it, right? You like if you put even a mediocrely quick player on the perimeter on him, I believe that they could stick on him. But again,
what about Adebayo?
Adebayo, he's gonna get little bodied. He's little to Zion. He's not little to Zion. What's Adebayo, like 6'6", like 250?
Adebayo, Bam Adebayo,
he's like 6'9", I think.
Okay, hold on. Somebody fact check me.
6'9".
He's got to be 6'9".
6'9" what?
6'9", 255.
Ah, come on. That's like 30 pounds. Put it on you.
Okay.
Put it on you. Boom, all game like that. Boom. Right? And then, but and that right there is where I'm in really awe of this guy, like, because he puts it on. Like, you get a great player like Bam Adebayo. Okay, so you ask me, what's he gonna do with Bam Adebayo? He got 30 pounds on him. He gonna put it on him. And then you ask me another question of what are you gonna do with a player like Rudy Gobert? Oh, he's smoking Rudy Gobert. He's going right past him. You don't think he's going past him, Jenner? Talk to me, Jenner.
No, I think Gobert's not going to come out to the perimeter to defend him.
Yeah, he's going to play drop coverage with him.
Yeah,
but
he's not going to get the chance to get burned.
You remember Zion's first game against the Spurs, and he hit like 3 threes because the defense literally just gave him the Ben Simmons treatment and just let him. They were like, just go ahead, just shoot all you want. And he's an NBA player, and this is one thing that really like irks me. Like, and people talk about this, like they're like, oh, like leave him open, like leave him wide open. Like, dog, he's an NBA player. Like, this is all he does for a living. If you leave him wide open and give him 10 shots, he's at least gonna make 3. At least.
Hey, listen,
right?
I'm leaving Ben Simmons wide open if I'm playing defense. Okay, this does not apply to everybody. All right, I'm leaving Draymond wide open for sure, dude.
Dwight Howard at the 3.
He's not hitting that shot.
Dwight actually hit a 3 at the end of the finals last year. That was hilarious.
But it's not. But is Zion as bad of a shooter as any of those guys you just listed?
No.
He's a legitimate. He's got a nice shot.
I feel and I think it's a great point that you guys bring up like about his shooting. I think that his shot is decent enough to where you can't just give him the disrespect where you're gonna just back off, because he'll make you pay, but you can't come out like if you're Rudy Gobert, you can't come out there like because you're gonna get burnt. So that's why to me, like, man, he's my guy. And another huge reason for me is to build a team around him. He doesn't have like both players that you guys listed, with Luka and Tatum, they have to be the guys. Like Luka needs the ball to be effective. Tatum needs the ball to be effective. Zion, yes, he can be a lot more effective with the ball, but he's also a huge lob threat. You can put players around him and on when he's on offense, the defense, even if he doesn't have the ball, the defense still has to account for him. They still have to watch for the backdoor cut with the lob. They still got to watch for the putback dunks. They still got to watch for the offensive rebounds. So that's why, to me, like, he just does so many things, and that's why, Rob, when you said one dimension, I almost lost it because
I said I almost said one dimension. All right,
because he does so many other things.
I have a reputation to uphold here. All right, let's calm down. No, I'll say this for Zion is, the Pelicans roster construction is pretty disgusting. Yeah, they got Steven Adams out there for some reason I can't really fathom. And like the spacing is not very good. So the fact he's as efficient as he is with what he's working with is pretty crazy. Like if you had a roster constructed like, to really maximize him, I mean, maybe he'll hit 70%. Who knows? Sky's the limit, I guess.
I think.
How would you build up that roster instead of what they have now? What changes would you make? Who would you keep? Who would you get rid of?
I would definitely keep Lonzo. Oh my goodness. I think him and Lonzo, once they really get some time to play together, they're gonna be scary. Because he really is like a younger LeBron, like as far as athleticism, right? And remember how much LeBron was like, I want to play with Lonzo, because he got all them outlet passes, right? LeBron loves those. So Zion, right? Zion needs a point guard.
Saw Anthony Davis.
And then he's like, get out of here.
Played with him for like 2 months, and he's like, all right, never mind. You're far too young.
But right, so I would keep players like Lonzo that can set up the offense for him, can set up the lob threat for him and all that. I would put shooters, but the only reason why I would put some shooters would be I wouldn't fill out the rest of the team with shooters, right? I would probably keep maybe like more like two shooters on that team, because they need to be the defense has to be stretched out, right? Because again, Rob, you brought up a great point that people bring up when they talk about with Zion. They say like, okay, when you're in the playoffs, right, and they can game plan for you for 7 games, like, are you going to really be able to still do this? Like Giannis got exposed. Yeah. Like we were like, oh my God, Giannis this, Giannis that, and when the Heat showed you, we get 7 games to sit down and focus just on you, we know exactly how to shut that down. And I really am excited to see if Zion will get his team to the playoffs to show us that he can do that, right? So that's why I would want shooters, right? To be able to not have the paint clogged up, so where the defenders are going to have to be out at the line, and if they're out at the line, then Zion can just have the paint open. But Rob, you mentioned Steven Adams. I actually think that having a big like that is good, because if you have a big like that, the other team they have to pay attention to Steven Adams, which opens up a lot more of the putback dunks for Zion. It opens up a lot more rebounds for Zion. And again, Zion isn't going to have to bang like down low, right? Like it. I think that, you know, I just thoughts in my head right now. I always think about the Lakers, but Andre Drummond. I think Andre Drummond. I think I think Zion and Andre Drummond, that would be a good battle down low. If they were banging down low, those are two big boys. You know what I'm saying? But if they play the Pelicans, I think that Andre Drummond would actually be forced to guard a Steven Adams, which would save Zion so much trouble, because then he wouldn't have to go body to body with a Drummond. And who would he go body to body with, right? If the Lakers are fully healthy, okay, that's a whole different story. But if you're talking about right now, right, like who's going to go body to body with Trez? Is he going to eat that? Like I love Trez, but Zion's going to eat Trez, right? And that's why I think it's important to have, you know, players like Lonzo, the couple of shooters, but then the real big man to take that heat off him. How you guys feel about that?
So here we go. Are you ready for me to put a giant hole in your argument?
No, kicks from chat.
No.
Oh,
so
wow, cut out.
I think your argument is good, but I'm going to say one thing, and you can make a real argument. Zion is, you can make an argument, and so don't lose it, but I believe this. Zion's not even the best player on his team. He's not even the best forward on his team. Okay? I'm going to give it to Brandon Ingram. So Zion is not the player that maybe gets game planned against all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Luka is the focal point of that team. Jason Tatum is the focal point of his team. You can make an
sharing
argument
with JB.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. I was gonna say you can make an argument that teams do have to pay attention to Jaylen Brown, but and the same thing you can say teams have to pay attention to Zion. They can't just focus on Brandon Ingram. But I'd like to see when Zion is the only guy on the team, like Luka, for example, or he's just really really far above the next player. How he's gonna fare, right? When the teams are only playing against them, or you say, for example, like. Who would be on the Lakers if you take out Anthony Davis? Who would be a good matchup against Zion? Well, nobody really. The best matchup would be Andre Drummond, and he's probably going to take Steven Adams. So it's just I think that he's often not having to get defended by the best player, right? So I think that's like would you think he would still be as dominant if he was the single best player on the team, like you know far and above, and teams have to game plan against him like he's the focal point.
You know, that's a great question. I agree with you on the fact that I think BI is the best player on that team. Like, I agree with that. But we're talking about, like, the 25 and under to build your team for the future, right? Like, that's potential, right? So, like, so in a way, like, what matters is, like, not now,
but how they're going to be.
Yeah, right? Yeah, like. And
I agree. I think potential-wise, I think that Zion has more potential than Brandon Ingram.
Yeah. So I like while I agree with you on that, I think that, you know, like the potential of Zion is far higher than maybe anybody in the league, to be honest, but maybe besides somebody else. but anyway,
we should have just done the Luka hour where we all just agree with each other for like an hour.
but right, so with Zion, having so much potential, that's the reason why I picked him. But to answer your question, Junior, I think that his game definitely would, you know, take a knock because I mean anybody, you know, if all these great NBA minds get to sit down and think about just you, right? Like it makes it a lot harder. Like for any NBA player, Michael Jordan, right? Like Michael Jordan struggled against the Pistons because they just focally on him, right? Yeah. So to answer your question, I do think that his game would, you know, would get knocked down a little bit, but I think that he would still do Zion things, man. Yeah.
I am curious though to see how that's going to pan out because I think eventually he'll probably end up going to a team where he's, you know, the best player on the team, or if BI stays in New Orleans for long, I don't know. But I am definitely curious to see kind of how that's going to pan out. And athleticism. That's one thing. Like Luka could do without the athleticism. I don't think Zion can. And that's going to be a big thing. Like when his athleticism is gone, that's it. You're going to get gumbo John Morant, and it's not going to work. Right? So,
yeah. Yeah, I know I was saying earlier that like Luka's conditioning could get a little better, but Zion's could like literally. I mean, he's kind of thick, you know. He could lose he could probably lose like 15 to 20 pounds if he really wanted to.
I think it's his advantage though. Like
For
I
the
think
long
the
term.
fact that he's, huh?
But yeah, long term though, like it opens him up to like injury risk.
Yeah.
The knees are carrying fucking all
A
that
lot of
weight.
Yeah.
I think I think for the long term, it's very similar to Charles Barkley. When we saw Charles Barkley get older, we saw that he just wasn't really in the same shape that he was. Because when Charles Barkley was younger, he was bullying everybody just like this, right? And we saw when he got older. But I think that only applies to, like, honestly, after the man turns like maybe like 23, 22, right? Because like he's 20, bro. Like he's so young, dude. Like this is what his knees are made for. Like, you know what I'm saying? Bro, like I'm 22, bro. I remember when I'm not even in the NBA, but like I remember when I was like 20, dog, I would go eat like 12 McDonald's burgers and then go hoop for like 12 hours, right? So then if I could do it, he got this crazy ability, man. But so talking about Luka, Tatum, and Zion. So I want you guys to answer this, okay? So as we close and we talk about all these players, I want you guys to answer this. In 5 years, okay, who is gonna have the most rings, MVPs, and All-Star selections? Talk to me, Rob. You go first out of the three. And I mean, go break each down.
So I'm sorry, could you repeat it again? It was rings,
Yeah, rings,
MVPs, All-Star selections.
Yep.
Okay, so I could see. So for rings, I want to say Luka, but I could see Tatum maybe getting more rings just because the Celtics, like they could be a piece away from a championship in my opinion. Like they got a nice roster construction. They've already been to the Eastern Conference Finals so many times. But honestly, for all three, I'd probably go Luka. Just because, I mean, of all three of them, I think he's got the most complete game outside of the defense. And I mean, at the beginning of the season, he was an MVP front runner this year for super long, even though the Mavericks weren't even playing that well. So I think, like, if the Mavericks have like a top 3 seed within the next 5 years, the league's just going to give it to him. Like,
Yeah.
they're thirsty to give it to him. So I think that's going to happen for sure. And then. Yeah, rings. I think the Mavericks could win a title potentially pretty soon, though I think that could probably go to Tatum as well. And All-Star selections, I mean, he's probably going to be an All-Star for like the next 15 years. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a long career ahead of him. But yeah, I mean, honestly, as far for the rings part, I kind of like. I guess it depends how his game evolves, but for Zion, I honestly do have questions about his ability to be the best player on a title contender. Because I mean, obviously, it changes if he just alters his game and becomes just gets a Kobe mid range and a Steph Curry 3. But as his
I could be in the league too.
as his game is currently constructed, where he's pretty reliant on getting to the rim. I personally think players like that are pretty limited. Like we saw it with Giannis. He got schemed for. I mean, in my opinion, Anthony Davis, like there's a reason that it took playing with LeBron for him to really get there with his game. Like it just places a limit on you. It's easier to scheme for. You need to really have multiple dimensions to your game really fleshed out. Now, if he gets there, then obviously that's a completely different story. Then he's going to be the most dominant player at the rim who can also hit a mid-range and a 3-point super consistently. But if he doesn't get there, then he would need that other guy to be able to close out games for him when the defense is scheming for him and he can't get to the rim. Now that might be Brandon Ingram. I mean, maybe they spend the rest of their careers together. That'd be pretty good for him. But yeah, that's my biggest question with Zion. And then with Tatum, I think it's not like a similar predicament, but I do think like the limits on his game are kind of centered around his playmaking, the fact that he needs a playmaking guard next to him because he does get that tunnel vision. I feel like the model for Tatum is the Toronto Raptors when Kawhi Leonard was on them. Like they had like a perfect roster construction to just plug him in there. He had Kyle Lowry to kind of handle the leadership role and the playmaking. role for the team. And because we see with like the Clippers when Kawhi was, like the guy, like they have a real problem with playmaking, and not having a point guard. Lou Will was not doing that for them. And like, Kawhi's like, they just were kind of like their team just wasn't put together. They didn't have chemistry. And obviously part of that is that they barely played any games together with all their starters. But I think the Raptors are a good model for how you would want to construct a roster around Tatum. But yeah, I got to go with Luka for all three personally.
How about you, Junior?
I think it's a good pick. Definitely MVP's Luka for sure. Like Robert said, like the league is looking to find their next, player to kind of carry that torch, and I think Luka really fits that mold the way he's been playing. So I for sure think MVP's for sure Luka, and most All-Star picks for sure Luka as well. As far as rings though, I think Luka might actually be in the least advantageous position out of all three of those players. Like I think Tatum's got probably the best shot because of the roster he's got around him and the fact that he plays in Boston. That's a big market. Some players tend to gravitate towards bigger markets. So, he's most likely that, a star free agent was having with Boston that they would with Dallas or with New Orleans. But I also think that we have to see what's going to happen with the Pelicans, because if Lonzo Ball develops to what he, his potential, which is a number 2 overall pick, if Brandon Ingram, keeps developing, and then Zion keeps, that's like number 2, and number 1 overall picks. That's like 3 on a starting squad. And then if you just all you got to do is now find 2 pieces to put around them, pretty much a guard and a center. And then centers, don't really need much nowadays. And the way that the league's going now, all you need is a center who could give you a decent shot, and you got a pretty deadly combination. Exactly. So, you look at, for example, like I'm not gonna say this would work out, but you look at a player like Porzingis, for example, like he seems to be available. Dallas is shopping him. He doesn't play much because he's injured often, but when he plays, he could really give it to you. You know what I mean? So like that's a player that if you could put like a Porzingis level type of player on the Pelicans, like, and even with Steven Adams, they're pretty good. So when you improve that, I think that they have a real shot there. So I'd probably say most likely to win a title, probably Jason Tatum first, Zion second, and then Luka third in their current situations, But like if Luka goes to, I'm not going to say the Lakers because I don't want to sound biased, but if Luka goes to the Heat, for example, right? If Luka goes to the Heat, it's game over. If Luka goes to, take any of the contending teams, the Bucks, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Heat, take any of them. Take out their one of their players and put in Luka Doncic, who could play any position from 1 to the 3, right? He can play shooting guard, point guard, and small forward. So you could just take out. It's not like a player that can only play center. He can only play shooting guard. Like he can play any of those 3 positions. You take out any of those, you put Luka Doncic in. Obviously, you're going to win a title. So I think that in their current situations, he's least likely. But I think that if you need one player to plug in, Luka Doncic, and that's over. You know what I mean? Like any of those teams I just said, instead of putting in Doncic, you put Zion or Tatum, you're probably better off going with Doncic. So that's what I think. What about you, John?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think that most rings will be Jason Tatum because of the roster construction, the way his roster is, and he's closer than everyone else. And I think really, like Rob said, they're like one piece away from a championship team. And getting some lucky with some injuries. And some other players get injured. MVPs, Luka, come on, man. They're begging to give Luka an MVP. Like y'all said. And All-Stars, again, I think Luka only because Luka's game is gonna age the best out of all 3 players that we listed. So that's why I'll have Luka for those. But there you have it, there, everybody. That was our 25 and under. Who would you want to build your team around? Man, Rob, thank you very much for coming on, Rob. You were a great guest.
Oh, thanks for having me. It was great.
It was fun. It was fun. And as always, you guys don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. You know what I'm saying? Wherever you guys are listening, whether you guys listen on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, make sure you subscribe. And as always, I'm gonna go ahead and put everybody's Twitter and Instagram. So I'm gonna go ahead and put Rob's Instagram and Twitter right there, right in this little bubble. I'm gonna go ahead and put the Clutch Talk Instagram and Twitter right here, right in this little bubble. So make sure you guys go follow that, man. And just stay tuned, man. We got a lot more coming up, and we're really excited, man. Playoffs are nearing. We're gonna ramp it up. And when the playoffs ramp it up, and the Clutch Talk ramps it up too, man.
So be exciting.
That's it, man. Hey, Rob, thank you, bro.
Of course, dude. It was a great talk.
All right, y'all. We out. Y'all. Clutch Talk out.